This is Master Your Mindset with Coach Mark.
What is going on, my people, and welcome back to another episode, another Monday episode. And I got a powerful one for you guys here today. And really, it's about like the fact that it does not take much time to create the kind of connection that you want with your family. And all of these things in here that are telling you that it takes too long are just trying to get you to stay safe, all right? So in this podcast, what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to show you how to create legendary connection with your family at home so you can create amazing memories as well as that legacy that you truly want to create. And I have to say, like, I'm not really sure if I've shared this much here, but when it comes to this idea and philosophy of legacy, it's something that I talk about a lot. I mean, you'll find it in like all of my profiles. You'll find it in like all of my different episodes, breakdowns of like what my bio looks like. And the reason why is because like I found myself very quickly not creating the actual legacy that I truly wanted to create. And if I remember back to when I was growing up, I had a lot of great experiences as a kid that allowed me to learn a lot of things. But I was surrounded by people who were constantly working, constantly doing more. My parents, incredible humans. They were the most hardworking people that you will meet. They had multiple jobs. They were working overtime. They were spending a lot of time making sure that they could make ends meet for us. And because of that, it kind of didn't create the kind of connection that I knew that I wanted to create when I was older. And what I realized is in those moments, I was kind of like learning through the process of just being around them as a kid that even though I didn't want to create that level of legacy with my kids, I really started to repeat that. I started to do that on my own. And I remember like the time that I realized that this was the case was when my first son was born and he had to spend 73 days in the NICU and he was born premature. And it was at that time that I realized that I had really let him down because I hadn't made my physical or mental health a priority. And like one of the things that I constantly think about is like he didn't get to choose who his dad was, but I literally got to choose what I did every day, like how I reduced stress in my life or didn't reduce stress, the work that I was putting in. And really, I had let myself slip. I mean, I was 100 pounds overweight at one point. I was not connected with Teresa like how I am now. I was not making that a priority. I was saying yes to everything at work because I felt like I was letting them down. All those things that we talk about here on the podcast is because it was something that I struggled with. And I realized that I was recreating that same exact thing because of the environment that I was in when I was growing up, but also because I didn't take ownership to change it, okay? And the reality is I just didn't take ownership to change it. It literally went into my subconscious, and that's why everything was running on autopilot, which is why I talk so much about that here on the podcast, is like the subconscious programming that kind of gets you to be a certain place in your life. And when you bring awareness to it, you have the ability of kind of changing that. And that's why, like really my deep why here is because I want to create that legacy for my kids. And I know that whenever I teach people about that, it helps me hold up that end of the bargain. But it's much bigger than that. It's like the world is a place right now that I feel that I can really help people see that they can excel professionally when it's their business, whether it's work, career, whatever, and still excel as a parent, as a spouse, and be that family, that leader in the family that you truly need to be to create that legacy. And I see this so many times that people tend to think like I did, which is like you can only excel in one, even though it doesn't make sense to think that, but it's just an automatic pre-programming. And so that's why like legacy is so important to me, and why a topic like today, where it doesn't take much time to create that deep connection, is so important to me that I like literally want to dedicate an entire podcast to give you some ideas of things that you can do with your family to create incredible memories, because it doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of time, all right? So I think there's this thought that we have in our mind, and it's a lot of us with type A personalities get this, where we have to like work more, we have to do more in order to achieve more. And when our brain thinks about like making a connection with our family, for me, mine thinks, well, it's going to take all day. It's going to take a lot of extra time, a lot of extra energy. And what it does is it does that to kind of trick us out of it. But see, here's the thing. If you decide that you're going to say, you know what? Well, what if it didn't take that much time? What if it didn't take that much energy? And what if I actually loved it and enjoyed it? And at the end of it, it actually created more energy for me. What would be something that would actually be able to do that? You start to present, the things start to present themselves to you. Now, I talked about this a lot. I was on Larry Hagner's podcast recently, the Dad Edge Alliance, or the Dad Edge podcast. And I joined his Dad Edge Alliance because when I had that question in my mind, is like, how can I become a better business owner and at the same time excel as a parent? His podcast ended up popping up, and it probably would have popped up anyway, but I would have not been open to it because I would have been like, oh, you know what, that takes too much time. But there was something in me that was like, no, there's a possibility here. And it's the thing that I talk about a lot on this podcast. When you open your mind to the possible questions that are out there, you will find the answers. You will find the answers. You don't need to know it now, but if you program it in terms of how might I do those things, the game will change. I mean, I did that with my business. That's how I 4X my business so I can retire early in 1 year, because I asked myself, how can I excel in my business and spend more time with my family? And I was able to find those answers. It wasn't something the next day, but I put myself in an environment. I surrounded myself in mastermind teams and in groups and things like that, like I talk about on this podcast all the time. And I found those answers and they worked for me. And now I'm like, I want to share this with the world, right? And I always think about this, like, if we can create this environment where we prove to our kids that we can excel professionally and excel when it comes to being their parents, like we are like living proof that in the future, we are going to be the one that changes it all. They're just going to think that's normal. No, that's normal. Like you rock your business, you rock your career, and you get to be incredible parents at home. What kind of beliefs are we planting in kids when we're doing that? And that's what I really feel like our opportunity is today as parents. And I do have to say, I see a lot of parents who are doing that. And it is like game changing seeing that this is the time that we're actually doing that. And I just want to acknowledge and appreciate you guys for a second. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast up to this point, especially after I've been rambling on, because you know that you're like, okay, there's some things here that maybe Mark can share with me to make my connections with my kids even more legendary, my connection with my wife or my husband even more legendary. And I'm going to help you do that today, okay? Now, here's the thing. There's a couple reasons why I bring up this idea of like, not only it takes a little bit amount of time, but I want to talk also about like legacy in terms of like what that actually means to me. So for me, it's like legacy is not like giving money. Legacy isn't like passing on homes or anything like that, like not material stuff. It's like the values, it's like the beliefs, it's like the principles that we instill in our kids. And one of the things that helped me make this change is there's this. Actually, it's on the back of my shirt. It says legacy lasts forever. So make today count. So legacy lasts forever. So make today count. Shout out to Kurt for making this shirt, by the way. But the philosophy behind that is like, hey, you know what? When you leave your work, when you leave and quit your business, or you pass your business on and you leave this planet, like maybe 6 months, maybe a year, like people really aren't going to be remembering you to the point where they're bringing you up in conversation. But your family will remember you forever. You will be that impact, what has been termed as, you will be the one by Ed Mylett, by the way. If you haven't grabbed his book, definitely grab his book. It's freaking incredible. The Power of One More. But you'll be that one that transforms your family's lineage forever because of the impact that you were able to make, all right? So when I say legacy, I don't want you to tread lightly. It's something that, yes, you can make a legacy and impact at work while also making that kind of legacy at home, but home is where people will remember you forever, all right? So I want to start off by asking you a bunch of questions, right? You know I'm the question guy. I talk a lot about true coaching, about life coaching, and of course I created a Push Coach certification school, a life coach school for people who want structure, who want to be able to not only understand how to ask powerful questions of themselves, but also be able to help other people unlock their full potential. So I love questions, and I want to ask you guys a couple questions. It might be a little weird to have it on a podcast here, but I want you to really think about these questions because they're important, all right? And that is, what about being a great parent or a great spouse or partner is most important or meaningful to you? So let's take like being a great parent. What about being a great parent is most important or meaningful to you? What kind of impact will that make on your family? Being that kind of parent that you truly want to be. What kind of things will it make possible that's just not possible right now? So when you focus on that, becoming a better parent, becoming the best spouse you can be, becoming the best partner that you can be, what kind of impact, ripple effect would it make on your family? What kind of impact would it make on the world who is watching you create that kind of impact? Now, why did I just ask that? Well, if you are a member of our Push Coach Certification School, you know I just got you into your heart voice, all right? Got you into your heart voice. Your head voice is looking for reasons for you to stay the same, for you not to get uncomfortable, for you not to try new things. But your heart voice comes from a different place. And when I can tap into that by asking you a freaking powerful question, you're going to be like, okay, this is the impact it's going to make. I'm all in. I'm ready to go. It's just when our heart voice gets drowned out by our head voice, that's when we stop taking action. All right. I want you to be in your heart voice for the remainder of the call today. Okay. Now, as you go through, you're going to hear me talk a lot about different ideas and suggestions for you. I want you to know that just like this in every single one of my podcasts, your goal is to pull one thing out for that day and take action on it. That's it. I don't want you to pull out every single one of these. I don't want you to have to think you have to consume or like literally there's a podcast, guys. You can go back and you can re-listen to as many episodes as you want. By the way, don't go back to listen to episode 1. It is terrible. All right. Now we're like 627 or something like that, 628 podcasts. Just start from the most recent ones and then keep listening to the future. But really, like, don't feel like you have to actually plug into every single aspect that I'm talking about. You can replete it again. You can just take one and you can take action, and that's all you need. That's what growth looks like. It looks like one step at a time. I can only imagine when I started listening to That Edge podcast, if I try to do all the things that Larry would say, that would be like overwhelm, right? That prevents me from taking any action. But what if I took one action day after day after day? And that's kind of like what I did in order to get to where I am today. And you guys are no different, all right? So if you look at some of the things that you've succeeded at, it's one piece, one time, take it day at a time, boom. And that creates that success that you want to create, all right? Now, here's a couple different things I want to talk about before we dive into the first exercise, and that is and versus or, okay? And versus or. As a life coach and teaching other life coaches, one of the things that I make sure that I teach them is to be very cautious and aware of the words that they are using in their own brain, but also other people are using when they're having conversations, okay? One of these is and versus or, all right? So if somebody comes to you and they're asking you a question, or you're asking yourself a question in your mind, and you say, should I do this or that? Very infrequently is there a right or wrong answer to that. Very infrequently. The answer that I choose to believe all the time is, how could I do both? It's an and. So when you hear yourself saying, well, I can either do this or that. I can either be great at work or be great at home. I want you to think about, like, how might I make both of those possible? I want to turn those ors into ands. So if you think, I just don't have time today, there's just so much stuff going on and I got to do this stuff for my business. Well, how could you do both? Quick story here, because this is like a game changer for me. When I started the 75 Hard, by the way, I'm on day 11 of the third round. I don't know. I did the 75 Live Hard program, which is the full year last year. And it was definitely a game changer for me, but I'm doing it again. And when I originally started the 75 Hard, it's 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside, and they have to be separated by more than 3 hours. And so I would do my normal workout in the morning. I'd make sure I get more than 45 minutes in. And then later in the day, when I came home from work, I was like, okay, I got to figure out a way of getting this workout in. But see, the thing is that at that time, I had implemented this new thing with my family where I was just like spending one-on-one time with them when I got home for like 10 or 15 minutes with them individually. And I would change like who it is that I was talking to. And if my mind told me you could do one or the other, like, that would have prevented what was one of the greatest things that I've ever found right now. And that is, instead of, like, I asked myself, how could I do both? And then I asked my kids, hey guys, instead of spending time here at home, what if you guys went on a walk with me and we just had a conversation? That turned into what we've been doing now for 2 years, which is I think it's Mondays and Thursdays is Alyssa, Tuesdays and Fridays is Andrew, and Wednesdays and Saturdays is Teresa. And I just go out with them and I just walk with them. I have conversations with them. Sometimes I have questions that I've already pre-planned. I actually have on my phone, like, the best questions that I have to really create that family connection. Things like, what made you smile today, right? What was something that made you laugh at school today? What was the funniest thing that happened? Those kind of things, like, they can create some amazing connection. And I have those pre-planned when I go out. And the connection that I've had from doing this, like, especially with my daughter, because we'll go out and she'll just tell me everything, right? She'll just keep talking and talking and talking. And I feel like I was actually with her at school that day. But when we come back, she's always like, Daddy, that was a great walk. I really love that. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I didn't really say that much, but it was just great having that conversation. That would have never happened if I said there was an or situation. Instead, I made it an and. and I still rock the 75 hard because that's a part of it. You can go out on a 45-minute walk if you want that to be your second workout, and it's outside. So boom, that's how I rocked both of them. So I want you to really reframe some of the things that might come up that'll prevent you from doing some of the things I'm going to talk about here today. Anytime an or comes up, I want you to go, let's reframe this. Can I do both? How might I do both? And most of the time you're suggesting you're doing one or the other, both of them is the right answer. All right? Both of them is the right answer. Okay. So let me tell you the first exercise. All right? This is going to be a connection exercise number 1. Okay? I want you to ask yourself these questions. Number 1, what do you appreciate the most about your husband or wife? So what do you appreciate the most about your husband or wife? And if you're not married, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever you want to say, all right? So what do you appreciate the most about them? I want you to sit down after this and actually write it out. I mean, even if you're on your notes in your phone, just write it out. What do you appreciate the most about your husband, wife, or significant other? The next question is going to be, what do you appreciate the most about each of your kids? If you don't have kids, how about nieces and nephews? Friends, coworkers, whatever you want to put in here. If you're family, put your kids. What do you appreciate the most about individually each of your kids? The third question is, how are you going to share that with them today? How are you going to share that with them today? What I mean by that is like find a new way of doing it. Find a way that's like, maybe you are the kind of person who you tell your wife how much you appreciate her and why you appreciate her, or your husband, how much you appreciate him. Maybe you're the kind who does tell that to your kids, but how could you do it in a different way? Let me give you some ideas. So one of the things you could do is you can mail them a letter. It's kind of weird, right? But what if your kids got a letter that was, it could be from you, could be from somebody, whatever. You went down the street, you wrote a letter about what you appreciate about them, and you sent it in the mail. What do you think that what kind of impact would have on your kids? For 36 cents, actually. I don't know how much a stamp is. I don't do the stamp thing anymore. But what kind of impact would that have? How about like a text message? How about a text message? I like doing this, like I've done this one time, and I need to do it more often. But like if you're sitting next to the person and you just send them a text. And you're sitting right next to them, you could say it, but it just makes a different impact when they see it in words. How about writing a note and putting it in a lunchbox if your kids go to school? Or putting it in a place that your significant other would find it? Powerful, guys. It takes you 15 seconds to brainstorm some things that are most important or that like what you appreciate the most about them. And takes you 5 minutes to write it out, and it takes you, I don't know, like 3 minutes to walk down to the mailbox, whatever it is. But what kind of impact will that note have on your family? I can tell you it'll be game-changing, okay? It'll be game-changing, and you're going to tell me because this is one of my challenges, all right? Is really how you can do that in a different way that just feels like different than normal, right? You can even hide it under their plates when it comes to time to eat. And when they pick it up, maybe they're going to see it right there. Whatever it is that's out of the norm, all right? Whatever it is that's out of the norm, all right? Now, I do want to talk about one more piece before we get into the last exercise, and this is something called the Adventure Challenge. The Adventure Challenge. It is a book. They actually have multiple books. I'm going to be pointing over here. And by the way, I am on YouTube. If I'm posting up all my podcasts on YouTube, so if I talk about like pointing gestures and whatnot, it's because I know that these are going to be on my podcast too. But I have books over here that is called the Adventure Challenge, and they have Adventure Challenge for significant others. They have Adventure Challenges in the bedroom. They have Adventure Challenges for family. And what it is it's basically kind of like a book that has like lottery scratchers kind of on it. And what it does is it says, okay, this thing will take you this amount of time, whether it's going to involve food, whether you're going to have to leave home, whether you're going to have to get a babysitter, whatever. It has like these little like hieroglyphics that kind of like give you an idea of what it's going to be like. And if you decide like, hey, let's do this one, you scratch it off and you have to do that within a certain amount of time. And the things that they have you do is just like, it's awesome. It's kind of awesome. It's like, sometimes it's like taking you back to your kid days. The other day, I think it was you had to go out and get water balloons. And what you do is somebody would be blindfolded and would say Marco Polo, and that person would say Marco, and the other people would say Polo, and you were allowed to try and throw the water balloons at them and hit them. One was like, you have to get a piñata, but you can't use a bat. You got to use your hands. There's so many different things. One of them was you got to put string across like a hallway in your house, and you've got to see who could be the first to go through it without touching the string. That one actually was super fun. Teresa ended up winning that one because everybody kept like moving over and they would hit the string and whatnot. And the first person to get through there, they win. There's so many different ones that like that, and it was so awesome. It was like great connection moments. So if you are somebody who really enjoys thinking outside the box, because the same things kind of just get boring. I mean, just like how we talked about a minute ago, like getting that note, doing something entirely different creates an entirely different emotion in our body, right? Well, it's the same thing with that. So if you get something like the Adventure Challenge, they have multiple different ones. Like I said, you can actually find a couple different things that are just going to be out of the norm, maybe things you used to do as a kid, but it'll make you have a ton of fun and memories. I remember like a lot of the different videos that I've taken from that. It's things that I'm never going to forget, okay? All right. Next thing that I want to talk about is exercise number 2, okay? Exercise number 2. This is one that I heard by Larry Hagner, and this was a game changer for me, okay? What he did, and I'm looking around here, but I don't have it. I think it's under my bed. What he did is he took a big whiteboard. And I duplicated this. What I did is I put 4 huge boxes. I put it into 4 quadrants. I put my name, my wife's name, and each of my kids' names. And what we did is we passed out. I'm going to show you here. If you're on YouTube, you can see these little Post-its. We passed out Post-its. Everybody had a different color. And what you did is you would answer a question based off of the person's name that we called out. So we said, okay, guys, mommy's going to go first. Now, when you feel most loved by mommy, what is it that she's saying or doing that makes you feel that way? And so each of us would write out, well, when she does this, when she does this, when she says this, when she's doing this. And they would go up and they would put the Post-its on mommy's. And then we'll be like, okay, so Andrew, let's go to Andrew's. Now, when you feel most loved by Andrew, what is it he's doing or saying that makes you feel that way? And so we would all write it down. Went through the entire family, took like maybe, 7 or 8 minutes. And then what you got to do is you got to go to your box and pull off the notes. And what this basically says is it tells you what you do or say or how you act that makes you feel like they're most loved by you. And when I look at some of these, it talks about he plays with me. He goes out on walks with me. When you just give me hugs, when you help me with my homework, when he says, I love you, Alyssa, like these are all things like, and when I got to my sons, by the way, he was like, Daddy, I really love it. When you're helping me with homework, but also when you're playing tickle and you laugh, even though, you're not the one who's getting tickled. This is like what, like this thing is what for my son, how he feels most loved by me is playing tickling where I'm laughing and I'm the one who's tickling him. And I can't tell you the number of times where I was tired, where I was exhausted, and he asked, hey, you want to play tickle? I'm like, no, not today, buddy. But yeah, this is the thing that he wrote down out of all the things that I've ever done, right? All the presents that I've ever gotten him. This is the thing that was most important to me. And then, of course, my wife's, but you don't get to see that one. It is awesome to be able to have these. Now I keep these right here by my keyboard. So anytime that I really want to plug into it, anytime I really want to remind myself, I go to this and I go, okay, so it's really not the big things. None of them said, hey, it's going on long trips to Disneyland and staying at the hotel. It's about going to Palm Springs and spending all day at the hotel. And those things are fun, guys. I'm not saying that it's not fun and it's not creating memories. But when you realize it's the small things, it gets you to go like, hey, that's not too bad. I can spend 5 minutes doing this today and really make their day and, of course, make my day. Because for me personally, when their day is made, it feels like for me, it's like, okay, that is a huge win for me. Plus, I love to feel that way too. So, okay. So that was exercise number 2. I would highly suggest if you're going to do one of those, that you do that one. That one is super powerful because then you can like get to have the ability of speaking their love language per se, which is another great book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. That's another great book to kind of listen to or read. But really being able to have this kind of structure in place so that you can have it physically in front of you, like the Post-it note with your kids and your significant others, like in their writing, is a game changer, right? It's a game changer. All right. So here's the thing. After listening to this podcast, guys, and by the way, I really appreciate you listening to these podcasts, not only this one, but just all of them. I'm kind of going through a transition right now where I'm like really like leading with the things that I value the most, because I know that after people coming to me a lot and talking about like really getting a lot of great from the interviews that I was doing, they wanted me to come on and really like share some of the things that are like nearest and dearest to my heart, which is a little bit of a transition. I know anytime there's a change, some people might want to push back, but I'm actually enjoying this, and I hope that you guys are too. But after listening to the podcast today, I want you to be prepared beforehand so that you can start to implement these things. Because after you listen to this, you're just going to potentially move on to the next podcast, the next book, the next whatever. And these are going to be all great sentiments, and they're going to be in your mind for a very short period of time. And then you're not going to be able to take action. Anytime I learn something where I'm like, hey, I absolutely want to do this, it goes down into my Evernote, or it goes down into my not my notepad, my calendar on my phone. All right. So that I can remind myself of like, hey, don't forget to do X, Y, and Z. So I want you to do that this week. What is something that we did that I talked about today that you can implement this week? What is something that I did or talked about this week that you can implement this week? And what is the best time to schedule that out? Do you need to have somebody else's permission? Like if it's going to be something with a family, do you want to get your significant other's permission? Or does it just going to be something that you're going to randomly do and you're going to surprise them? Sometimes it requires them to have that buy-in, right? Sometimes it doesn't. But really, like, think about that in advance. And then ask yourself, what would success look like to you? What would success look like to you? So maybe you do the Post-it notes and it doesn't turn out exactly like how mine was. But what would success look like to you? Paint a picture in your mind so that you can have an idea of like the direction that you want to go. And if it doesn't go that way, know that that's what progress looks like, guys. If you all of a sudden are now coming home for the first time, sending people notes and now asking them to do this, something like this, they may feel a little awkward. And I'd leave with that, by the way. Back when I was a part of the Dad Edge Alliance, which I still am right now. But back when I was a part, like I would tell my kids, hey guys, I'm going to dad school today. Like we're having a Zoom meeting, I'm having a teaching, a training, I'm learning something. And they're like, Dad, like, why are you going to a Zoom meeting? I wanted them to know that I took being a dad as serious as I do as being a police officer. As serious as I do as being a certified life coach, as serious as all those things, because we spend all this time and energy over there, right? But in reality, there's so many things like our family. There's so many things like being a husband, being a father that for some reason most of us don't do. And I want to make sure that they know it's normal to actually go out there and go to school to be a better dad, go to school to be a better husband, because those things are important to me, even more so than my career, even more so than my business. And so putting it out there, letting them know, and just saying, hey, this might be a little bit awkward, but this is what I heard today. And it's so important for me to like really connect with you guys. So I'm going to be doing some things that might not work out, but guess what? It's because I really love you guys and I want to just get better for you. Nobody's going to poo-poo that. All right. And if they do, there's nothing that you can do with that. Just lead with the best version of you. Right. All right. Quick quote to end this podcast. All right. Parents who are creating a legacy always look for new ways to connect with their family to create amazing memories that will last forever. Parents who are creating a legacy are always looking for new ways to connect with their family to create amazing memories that will last forever. That's you guys. I know that why you're here. I know that you have this on your heart where you want to have a better family or have a better connection with your family. You want to be that parent that you truly want to be. You want to be that spouse that you truly want to be, or you wouldn't be here. All right. So I just want to say I appreciate you guys so much, not only for listening to this, but for being that leader in your family that they need. And I can't tell you how excited I am to see the impact that this makes for you. So if you're on my email list, shoot me an email. I want to hear about it. What you did. What was the response? Okay. I want to hear about it. If you're on social media, same thing. I want to hear about it. Like the more that you can put it out there, the more that we can acknowledge and appreciate you, the more that we can pass that on to other people and give them some incredible ideas too. Okay. All right. You guys have an incredible, incredible week, and I will see you guys on Thursday. All right. Bye, everybody.